Off the heels of my triumphant Platinum achievement in the first Tomb Raider game, I immediately set my eyes on the Platinum trophy in Tomb Raider 2. And just like the last time, I first had a good look at the trophies to map out my Platinum journey. In the first game, I made the near-fatal mistake of combining my speedrun and pistols-only trophies with my New Game Plus playthrough, but that was because I had no idea that New Game Plus was a much harder version of the game. This time, however, I knew better, but like an actual madman, I was now curious if I could repeat this massive feat in Tomb Raider 2. Screw my blood pressure, if I could do New Game Plus in all 3 Tomb Raider games with just pistols, on a time limit, I would practically become a legend, wouldn't I? I would do anything to avoid 3 full playthroughs. But no matter what, I had to complete a regular new game first, where I would collect all secrets and pickups and aim to get the vast majority of the trophies. I began my journey in Lara's home, where the first trophy tasked me with finishing the assault course in 120 or less. Except I got the trophy for doing it in 120 and 1. As long as the trophy box kept being positive ones like that one, I was completely fine with them. I then lured Lara's butler into the walk-in freezer to trap him for an age-old Tomb Raider tradition, but for the purpose of a trophy, I had to wait until he made a bad sound before doing it. Once Winston had been dealt with, I went outside Croft Manor again to explore the massive maze in the garden, as I needed to gain access to Lara's treasury for the final trophy in Lara's home. And a helicopter ride to China and a complicated climb to the top of a guardhouse on the Great Wall later, I got an amazing triple trophy pop for swan diving into the lake with not just 1 but 2 somersaults on my way down. I then unlocked a trophy for evading all of the saw blade projectiles, or whatever those things are, while going through the water instead of doing it the easy way. Next, I had to kill the 2 T-Rexes in the level with quote-unquote no evidence, which I figured meant that I had to blow them to smithereens with the grenade launcher I just had been gifted for finding all secrets in the level. The problem was that each T-Rex takes 4 grenades to kill, and the weapon only came with 6, so I softened them up with pistols first before I got rid of the evidence. And a frightening zipline ride and an awkward encounter with a cultist later, I got the These Doors Are Waiting trophy for completing the Great Wall. In Venice, I got the Emergency Exit trophy for jumping through a window, and then the Let's Saddle Up trophy for jumping into the motorboat from the highest point possible. I then got my perhaps favorite trophy in the game for jumping from a speeding motorboat to a parked one just before the former crashed into the mines. Cooler than Moonraker indeed, this stunt was definitely worthy of a double-taking pigeon. In Bartley's hideout, I had to reach the top of the entrance hall without moving the block for the pollen allergy trophy, but I didn't get the trophy in spite of finding a different way up there. I was dreading another bug trophy shit fest already. Thankfully, the Moving Doesn't Change Who You Are trophy did unlock upon collecting the library key, which I got for having left the chandeliers in their original positions. Towards the end of the level, I found Bartley's hidden Uzi stash next to the boathouse for another trophy, and then I went and blew up his hideout so I could finish the level. At which point I randomly got the pollen allergy trophy about 30 minutes later than I'd expected to. In the opening area of Opera House, I got a trophy for lighting a flare in front of the Harry Houdini-inspired Gianni Bartoli poster. I then got a trophy for only stepping on 3 floor panels on the dilapidated floor that leads to the roof of the Opera House. I got the Gold Digger trophy nearby for collecting the Gold Dragon secret before the other 2 secrets, which required a very tricky drop off the floor above it and a slightly delayed mid-air grab to land Lara safely past the broken glass pit. And speaking of broken glass, the game rewarded me with a trophy for being a window-breaking vandalist throughout the level, but let's be honest, this broken down opera house could hardly look any worse anyway. Except, ironically enough, this is truly one of the most gorgeous levels in the remaster. I unlocked the Codex of Italy trophy upon collecting the Stone Dragon secret in the flooded area beneath the stage for having found all the secrets in the Venice chapter. And once I finished the level, I got the Via Caravelli Venice trophy for having completed the chapter, as well as the No Time for the Plague trophy for having evaded being bitten by rats. It's a shame there was no trophy for evading being shit on by a pigeon. Which would be one hell of a real-life achievement in Venice. In Offshore Rig, I got a trophy for not getting into the water until after I'd collected Lara's pistols from the plane. Apparently, Lara can just roll through the windows in the control room instead of going the long way around through the underwater tunnel. A little later, for the In a Rush trophy, I had to run through the fire to reach the ladder instead of using the box to reach it safely, which sucked since medipacks don't exactly grow on trees in this game. And much later, in Diving Area, I unlocked the Hilarious Anger Management trophy for doing a certain iconic cheat code in response to the helicopter escaping Lara. A chill pill, and I assume lots of duct tape later, I got a trophy for finding the hidden M16 in the fire trap corridor just before collecting the first machine chip. At the end of the level, I was rewarded with a trophy for being a cold-hearted asshole who prioritized collecting the final secret in the chapter, you know, material gain, over helping a badly injured monk. In 40 Fathoms, I got a trophy for doing the entire Water Chef challenge, including collecting the Gold Dragon secret in one breath, and much later, at the end of Wreck of the Maria Doria, I unlocked a trophy for swan diving into the water and swimming through the moray eel cave undamaged. And speaking of nervous wreck, that's exactly what I was before having to deal with the giant eel. I got a trophy shortly thereafter, however, when I did a cool shortcut in the engine room, which put me in a much better frame of mind. I then unlocked the No Unnecessary Moves trophy for obtaining the Gold Dragon secret without breaking any floor panels, but there were no breakable floor panels, so I'm not really sure what the hell the trophy description was on about here. The deck was a miserable experience as usual. Due to a stupid trophy called Fire Safety, I had to keep every flamethrower enemy alive until Lara had been set on fire by them and put out the fire. Since I was running low on medipacks, I had to come up with creative ways to minimize how long she was on fire. I had been working on this trophy ever since I encountered the first flamethrower enemy in Diving Area, and I wouldn't be able to harvest the fruits of all the hard work until the final level of the game, so yeah, I pretty much hated this challenge. I unlocked a trophy for completely ignoring the underground lake on my way to the cabin key, which I had never done before, so at least that was an interesting challenge. I got the Codex of Maria Doria trophy when I collected the final secret in the deck for having found all secrets in the chapter. And when I finally completed this dick of a level, I got a trophy for it, as well as the No Fish Soup Today trophy for not having killed or been hurt by any shark. In Tibetan Foothills, I unlocked a trophy for finding and killing the hidden snow leopard near the beginning of the level, and then I got the Tibetan Osteopathy trophy almost immediately after that for crashing through the wall of ice back first and surviving it. During the Tibet chapter, I had to safely make all icicles drop without getting hurt for the purpose of unlocking the Public Service trophy. Most of them were here in Tibetan Foothills, one of the most awesome levels in Tomb Raider 2. Unfortunately, due to the eco-friendly trophy, I had to complete the entire level without ever using a snowmobile, as I figured it would be better to have the vehicle at my disposal for my New Game Plus playthrough. But hey, at least completing Tibetan Foothills on foot was a new and fun experience. No, it sucked. When the trophy popped, I was happy to have that challenge in the rearview mirror. Bakang Monastery began with another awkward trophy-related challenge that tasked me with getting inside the monastery without using the ladder. This required climbing some rocks nearby and a tricky curved jump. Once I broke the window and entered the monastery, the trophy popped. Later I got a trophy for lighting a flare in front of a mysterious pair of moving eyes on the roof of the monastery. And I got another one for getting through the world's most inhospitable corridor without getting hurt by any of its traps on my way to both the level's Jade Dragon secret and the trapdoor key. For the entire level, I had to make absolutely sure that no monk got killed by the Fiamanera, which thankfully is easier than it sounds, since these monks not only outnumber the cultists, but also are total badasses. I still held my breath when I completed the level, however, as I easily could have missed a dead monk somewhere. Thankfully, I didn't. Catacombs of the Talion began with the first icicles since Tibetan Foothills and had some more towards the end near the underground lake. Still no trophy though, as there were more icicles waiting in Ice Palace. I got a different trophy at the beginning of the level though for grabbing the Tibetan mask within 25 seconds of triggering the snow boulders. This was pretty difficult actually, as there was next to no margin of error here. But you know what they say, practice makes perfect. I then got the Snowballs Champion trophy for getting to the top of the hill and back again before the snow boulders had reached the bottom of it. I love all these weird little challenges everywhere. Say what you will about trophies, but when they are designed well, they can really bring a lot of extra out of a game. In Ice Palace, I got a trophy for ringing all bells without using the slides more than 4 times, and I also finally got the Public Service trophy upon removing the final set of icicles inside the Yeti Cave. And towards the end of the level, I got a trophy for dropping a flare into a very deep chasm. I got the Lara Stamps Out Yeti trophy upon completing the Tibet chapter, and then I moved on to the big one, Temple of Xi'an, where I unlocked the Wipeout Master trophy for running past all swinging obstacles before the boulder chase without slowing down or getting hit. Much later, I was faced with the daunting task of clearing the infamous spider cave undamaged. This was pretty hard due to how dark the cave is and how spiders can creep up on Lara from anywhere. Worst of all was having to deal with the final spider up on the platform, as there's just not enough space there to deal with an arachnid of that size. A personal highlight for me in this level, and the game, was finally being able to collect that annoying medipack in the big open cave area, which forever had been unobtainable until now. In floating islands, I had to resist firing at the levitating swordsmen when they were airborne for the Unequal Terms trophy, which proved to be a rather intimidating challenge, as you really don't want to deal with these guys in close combat at full health. Just before the end of the level, I unlocked the Codex of China trophy upon collecting the game's final secret, and then when I completed the level, I got the No Crazy Golf trophy, pollen allergy style, for having left the jade boulders in their original position much earlier by taking a dangerous shortcut under the bridge. During the epic boss fight against Marco the Italian dragon, I made sure to dodge his fire breath 5 times for the No Grill Today trophy, before letting Lara catch on fire so I could put it out and finally earn that damn fire safety trophy. I then slayed that big stupid dragon and got the hell out of its lair for another trophy. The only thing I had left to do now, in my first playthrough that is, was the Let's Dance trophy in the game's epilogue Home Sweet Home, but dear lord. This abomination of a trophy tasked me with killing every enemy in the level in the ballroom of Croft Manor while music was playing, which meant 2 things. If I accidentally killed an enemy after the music had stopped playing, which it does every time you reload your game for example, the trophy wouldn't unlock. And if the tip of a dead enemy's pinky finger was slightly outside the border of the ballroom, it wouldn't unlock either. Add to those stupid requirements that the enemies dealt ridiculous amounts of damage to Lara with no cover to go behind in the big open ballroom, and that I only had a couple of medipacks at my disposal for the entirety of the onslaught. Plus, I couldn't see shit. At least I got the souvenirs from Around the Globe trophy in between enemy waves upon collecting the shotgun shells in the garden. After numerous failed attempts at getting the Let's Dance trophy, where I either just got killed or a pixel of a hair on a dead dog's tail was outside the ballroom or whatever, I finally got it. And at the end of the credits, I got my 60th trophy, which marked the end of my first playthrough. I then began my New Game Plus playthrough, and having just been reacquainted with how difficult Tomb Raider 2 is, I really dreaded what was in store for me in this even harder mode. Don't forget, in order to avoid a third playthrough, I had committed myself to do it with only pistols, and in less than 6 hours. I didn't have too much trouble hurrying through the first couple of levels, especially not Venice, which I blasted through by completely ignoring the motorboat for the purpose of a trophy. I am astonished how much faster and easier it is to do the level without it. What did cause me trouble, however, was the fact that there seemingly was no way to heal Lara in this game's New Game Plus mode, as there were no medipacks. New Game Plus in the first game didn't have medipacks either, but at least that game had save crystals that would heal Lara back to full life. Tomb Raider 2, however, has no save crystals, and thank God for that, by the way, so at first it seemed like I had to complete every level in New Game Plus without being able to heal Lara. I refused to believe this, so once I had stumbled across the finish line in Opera House, half dead, I had a look online, and sure enough, New Game Plus does have medipacks, but only if the player finds all 3 secrets in a level. So from Offshore Rig and onwards, that's what I did, because with a level like Floating Islands on the horizon, I would need every damn medipack I could possibly get. I have always detested how Tomb Raider 2 crams enemies into every little nook and cranny of each level, especially enemies with firearms and their aimbot-like precision, as they are total medipack drains. So here on New Game Plus, with increased resilience, damage output, and insane medipack scarcity, I was very worried whether I could even complete this mode, let alone in less than 6 hours. And again, I had to do it all with just Lara's pistols. But I could only blame myself for that one. Roll trolling these armed douchebags worked wonders when there was just one of them, but it was useless whenever enemies outnumbered Lara. I sometimes had luck running past them, but then typically another enemy would just wait around the corner. This constant health drain from bullets repeatedly depleted my medipack storage, which made the unusually combat-heavy Maria Doria levels particularly loathsome to get through. And of course, for the infamous big drop in the deck that takes a chunk out of Lara's health bar, the large medipack right before it had been replaced with useless Uzi clips. Bullets, bullets, and bullshit. That just about sums it up. In Tibetan Foothills, however, I was thrilled to finally be able to use the snowmobile, where I got the Tibetan Express trophy for jumping next to the 2 blocks of ice with the vehicle without too much trouble. Barkung Monastery, on the other hand, was nothing but trouble. Once I came to the heartbreaking realization that the monks are not your friends in New Game Plus, it was all downhill. Evil monks meant at least a quadrupling of enemies or so, and these bastards killed Lara in just a few hits. Perhaps they assumed that Lara was a Fiamanera member, although sometimes it certainly seemed like it were the monks who were in cahoots with them. Thankfully, they weren't, as I sometimes would be lucky enough to encounter one so injured from fighting them that they would die from just one shot. I truly cherished those moments. Going through this level was a nightmare, and it took me forever. If I ever am going to do this level again on New Game Plus, it won't be with pistols, that's for damn sure. The rest of the Tibet chapter was brutal as well, especially whenever I had to deal with Yetis who were particularly resilient and dangerous in this mode. At one point, Lara had an army of pissed off Yetis and snow boulders on her heels, which seemed like a scenario I couldn't possibly survive. But I did. But then Lara decided to discard her burned out flare instead of grabbing onto the ledge above the chasm. Thanks, Lara. I gave the fight against the Guardian one half-hearted attempt before I succumbed to the age-old cheese method against it, until it almost was dead at least, at which point I had courage enough to go down and take it on legitimately. Being seriously concerned about how little time I had left to complete the game, I did a massive shortcut in Temple of Xi'an that I'd always heard about, but never tried since I had never wanted to skip this awesome level before. This shortcut didn't spare me the difficult last part of the level, however, which left Lara on the brink of death. So during that final nerve-wracking ascent up the ladders with the blades, my timing had to be spot on, because I couldn't afford using any medipacks. Floating Islands was hands down my most brutal Tomb Raider experience ever. Words won't even do it justice. In fact, I'm not even sure the gameplay footage will. It was so hard, it almost brought me to tears. Keep in mind that I not only had to do it with pistols, but I also had to do it at lightning speed because I knew I was getting dangerously close to the 6-hour mark. I ran past the insanely dangerous enemies of the level whenever possible, and when that wasn't a possibility, I had to be really careful and strategic, which took forever. I succeeded after hours of failures, but thankfully the in-game clock only counts the time spent between saves. The Dragon's Lair was brutal too, but surprisingly perhaps the final boss fight against the dragon wasn't too bad, just very long and tedious. As I was nearing the end of the game, I was over the moon about the fact that my entire Tomb Raider 2 experience had been so smooth. I mean, it had been immensely difficult, nothing had been smooth in that regard, but every trophy had popped when it was supposed to, unlike my harrowing experience with bugged trophies in the first game. And since I was getting really tired of only being able to use Lara's pistols, I was looking forward to my beautiful reward for it. But the trophy didn't pop! And according to the internet, this was where it was supposed to pop, because in the epilogue, you are forced to use the shotgun. I was furious. I had more than earned my trophy here, and I couldn't believe that I was the victim of an unfair trophy bug. Again. Until I realized that this was all my fault, because when I went back and looked through my gameplay footage, desperately searching for answers, I realized that I had fired the mounted machine guns on the snowmobile in Tibetan foothills. Thankfully, I did have a save at the beginning of that level, but I couldn't believe that I had to do levels like Bakang Monastery and Floating Islands on New Game Plus again. I was pretty pissed at myself for making such a stupid mistake here, and I'm not even sure I've forgiven myself yet. When I finally reached the end of New Game Plus again, broken, traumatized, unsure if I ever truly would recover from this, the trophy popped, and that sure did put a smile on my face. Being allowed to use the shotgun in Home Sweet Home felt almost therapeutical at this point. The only thing I needed to make sure of here was to kill the final boss in Lara's bathroom so he would appear in the background of the final cutscene.
Don't you think you've seen enough?
At the end of the credits, I got my trophies for having completed New Game Plus and for having done it in less than 6 hours, which of course meant that I had unlocked the Platinum Trophy in Tomb Raider 2. I then set my eyes on the Platinum Trophy of Tomb Raider 3, but there was something else I needed to do first.